Hello and welcome to Homer for Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. Today we'll be reading from lines 245 to 264 in Book 12 of the Iliad. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I hope you enjoy this wonderful description of the wall and more. Let's get into it. For if the rest of us be slain, and all at the ships of the Argives, yet is there no fear that thou shouldest perish. For thy heart is not staunch in fight, nor warlike. Howbeit, if thou shalt hold aloof from battle, or shalt beguile with thy words any other, and turn him from war, forthwith, smitten by my spear, shalt thou lose thy life. So spake he and led the way, and they followed along with a wondrous din. And thereat Zeus, that hurleth the thunderbolt, roused from the mountains of Ida a blast of wind, that bare the dust straight against the ships. And he bewildered the minds of the Achaeans, but vouchsafed glory to the Trojans and to Hektor. Trusting therefore in his portents and in their might, they sought to break the great wall of the Achaeans. The pennants of the fortifications they dragged down and overthrew the battlements, and pried out the supporting beams that the Achaeans had set first in the earth as buttresses for the wall. These they sought to drag out and hoped to break the wall of the Achaeans. Howbeit not even did the Danaans give ground from the path, but closed up the battlements with bulls' hides, and therefrom cast at the foemen as they came up against the wall. Wonderful. Let's sing it in the Greek.
Pergaret halloig periclen o methapontes. Nasina pargei on suoi duode ossesta polestai. Margarto acradiem en dei o suore machemon. Esu dei o tetus effexe aeatinalon. Alfamen nos paesina potrepses polemoio. Altica moio patori tu pesa potuo manolasses. Wasara fuanessa segesa tatuaira me ponto. Echitha specie epides deos terpicaraunos. Vors napiedaion oreon anemoio tu elan. Rithus nauon conien per an altara caion. Daugen nauon trosin de cae Hektor I cuora sopraste. Tu perde teraes per poi tota sede biefi. Regnus sai megatecos e caion heretis don. Crossos men purgon eruon caere ponapaxes. Stelas de probleta som mochleon hosara chaie oi. Protas en gaiete som nemmen a jechmata porgon. Taswega ueron el ponto de tecos a caion. Rexen u den upoden oi casdon tu calautu. Al hoi gechri nosi boon fraxan de sepalches. Tauon eios hypothekos iontas.
Wonderful. I always mess up on like the last line. What's up with that? Yeah, great. Very, very good. So we hear a lot about the wall here, right? So spake he and led the way, and they followed with wonder. Standing there at Zeus, that hurleth the thunderbolt, roused from the mountains of Ida a blast of wind that bare the dust against the ships, right? The pennants of the fortifications they dragged down and overthrew the battlements, right? Krossasmin, purgon, nedmon, eruon, kaiare ponapalxes. This word eruon occurs also later on in line 261, right? Tas hoi gau eruon el ponto de te kosakaion. tas hoi gaueron, it's tas hoi gaueruon, right? So it's alpha, upsilon, epsilon, rho, upsilon, omicron, nu. Aueruon, right? Aueruon. Actually, yeah, you're right. It's aueruon, second time around. Which means like, I don't know, it's like this very interesting sensation of like pulling down, right? So eruo is not just pull down, but it's also, it's also to save, right? And to drag, right? So like you drag like the pole behind you in a chariot, right? It's what they use to steer. Same as when you go punting in Oxford, if you ever have the pleasure of doing that. I think I mentioned that on the Homer channel before. I just think it's an interesting word to recur here in this sort of like sympathetic structure, right? Because this word krosas is very difficult to translate. It occurs once more in like line 444, I think, but nowhere else does it occur in Greek literature except for in Herodotus when he's describing the rows upon rows upon rows of the Great Pyramids. So maybe that has to do with like, so the translation that was here is like penance, right? But you look into the art of interpreting the Iliad and people get really serious about exactly figuring out what these things are, because it helps you understand what the heroes are doing. So we somehow made it past the ditch, right? If you remember, the ditch was a problem, but we made it past that somehow. And now we're like ripping things off. Some people say that this is how you can understand that the poet of the Iliad didn't really understand what siege fighting was as opposed to war on the open plain, right? Which is also quite important for this word perao, right? Paratisdein, right? Which occurs in, 60, 59, 58, 57, 257. Right? So they sought to break down the great wall of the Achaeans. I personally feel that as far as technology is relevant for the Iliad, and as far as the evolution of battle tactics that one can see as the emergent form of cultural discourse by which these heroes undertake their lifetimes, right, in the service of following through on older virtues, put in conflict with new ideas and literally constructions of their way of interacting with one another, a profound bit of which is the wall. I think that this idea of paratisdein, to attempt, right, to give it a shot, right, I think that this line is very significant, and I think that much could be discussed on it, particularly as concerns the way we work with technology and the way that Homer's technology, or his way of discussing how people undertake battle, is so deeply different than those that came before him, and similar to the world in which we continue to live in today. But that is a conversation for another time. For now, I'll leave you with those wonderful lines, and I will look forward to sharing with you more lines tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Let's root for Polydemos surviving, even though Hektor didn't like his speech in the coming days. Take care and have a great one. Bye.